Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Hard Truths with Scott Lurie. Today, we have just completed a webinar. I'm hearing it in my earphone.
Hello.
I just heard me re-saying myself. It's like delayed and then repeating it back into my. I can't. No, it like repeats back into my ears.
It's an echo.
It's like a delayed echo. Okay, now it's not doing it anymore. Well, now it isn't. I don't hear it. Okay. Hello and welcome, guys. Good afternoon. This is the Hard Truths with Scott Lurie. We have just completed a webinar, one of our free webinar series, and we've got Shalonda, Londi, and Steve in studio with us today. Guys, thank you so much for participating in a free webinar. There's a lot of people that take this information, whether it's live or at another point in their day, and value it. It motivates people. My mission has always been to give one person a reason to get started in real estate, as you said, Londi, get started. And so thank you for your time to do so, and congratulations on the complete and successful BRRRR of Val Phillips. We didn't get much time during the webinar for a brief introduction. We had a little story about Steve and the world, but I'd like to maybe take a couple minutes, if that's okay with each of you, and just kind of give your background. Real estate's obviously been an important part of your life, your life's journey today. We're not young anymore, as they say. But part of the process is, real estate's really that unlocking moment of what is, I'll call wealth generation or cash flow or freedom, right? The ultimate in the world, right? Why we live in this great country. So, tell us a little bit about your background, and then maybe let's use this opportunity to also discuss why real estate, right? Why real estate is the question. So give us a little introduction about yourself, where you maybe, let's take 1 to 2 minutes of introduction time for each of you, and Steve, just to, tell a little bit about your background, and then we're going to jump into the actual deal.
So I'd like to, take that time. So, Londi, welcome again to the Hard Truths, and give us a little background on who you are.
Well, I basically started this whole journey. I was a car salesperson before that. I was a poker dealer. But I fired from the casino of the players, but hey, I'm sorry. Well, we're kind of long hours. I don't know if anybody's ever in car sales. You have in the 12-hour days, bell to bell, and it's exhausting.
Okay.
And started like, okay, I want to write a book. At that point, I'm like, oh, well, I like having your money, instead of you making your money, having your money work for you. And I'm like, that makes sense. So when I got my first house, I'm like,
So I'm sorry to interrupt you. You said you read Rich.
You had no investor that you were just working, grinding, and every once in a while getting fired from the grind somewhere along the way.
Okay. Like, turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. But
Sure.
Just a quick thing, I grew up extremely poor.
Okay.
We were on Section 8, we were on food stamps, we were really poor. I'm literally the first person in my family to ever buy a house. Because of that, because I would have learned about real estate, my sister, who has 8 children, first one when she was 15 years old, bought her house in 21. The oldest of her children, he's going to buy a second house at 22.
Wow.
So what I was able to learn, I was able to teach my family, and we're growing wealth from that. But we come from absolutely nothing.
Sure. Great story. So come from nothing. The book that tell everyone to read is Rich Dad Poor Dad, only because it had one moment in there that kind of said to you, hey, it was the aha moment, right? You were like, holy crap. You mean you can make money and then it'll make money for you?
They're good at and bad at? I thought it was all bad. That's what Dave Ramsey said.
Sure. Yeah. Great. Okay. And so we're going to dig into your real estate journey because, you know, I think it resonates with a lot of people in this journey, right? That we were poor, right? You were poor. You, as you said, Section 8, food stamps, you know, meals were not granted. Meals were not something you took for granted. The world was different. And today you're trying to create a better life and family for yourself, and real estate really is an empowering moment. So that's great. So thanks for being here, Steve. I'd love to hear a little bit about your background. I know you mentioned you were driving truck for a little bit. You've had a couple different careers, but you know, you're an artist at the end of the day with your hands. I've seen your work firsthand in these rehabs that you've done, and you know, you don't get a $250,000 appraisal from being a Band-Aid provider for real estate. You know, if you hear your background, you told us a little bit to just, you know, spend a minute or two talking a little bit about your background. Let's share as much as you can and a little bit about your real estate journey.
I guess I started working for my dad when I was a kid, and
What'd your dad do?
he was a drywaller and a full-time slacker.
Okay.
He wanted everybody else. He wanted everybody else to work hard for him. So I started doing that, and he was also a perfectionist. And he said it takes the same amount of time to do it half-assed as it does to do it right.
Isn't that the truth?
So, or actually, he said it takes twice as long to do it half-assed as it does to do it right, because you're going to have to go back and fix it. So
Right.
He said if you're going to do it right.
Interesting. Great statement there too.
Yeah, and there was it was never good enough. So he made you have an attention to detail. And that's what he started to tell her. That I guess that's what he taught me. It's just like, when you think it's good enough, do it better. So
Great.
he,
So talk a little bit about, because you something really hit me when you said, you know, the pandemic hit, the world was there, you were out on the road driving trucks. So you got your CDL. You were like, hey, I'm sick of slinging drywall mud.
Yeah, being dirty. I wanted to go to work clean and come home clean.
So you were a laborer essentially prior to you getting a CDL. You went and got your CDL. You got into an air conditioned or a heated semi, right? 18-wheeler. Was that you were driving?
Yep, over the road.
Okay. So over the road, you'd be gone at nights, or you were back home at night?
Well, I was gone for about a year and a half or so. I was over the road, and then it started that I was just driving locally at night.
So you're doing local delivery.
I'd run down to Chicago, down to Bolingbrook and back, just doing flatbed. And yeah, right. I think it was like 2019. I went through a major back surgery.
Okay.
And before I did that, we had fixed up a couple of floors in her house, in her childhood house. And
Yeah,
I think we stuck like 40 grand or something into it. And it ended up appraising out at 313,000 or something like that. So then went through that back surgery. And then when the pandemic hit, I was about ready to go back to driving truck. And she had posted all the pictures on Facebook. And I remember I was coming home that night, and I forgot what it was.
I was just like, you do this for everybody else. Why won't you just do this for us? Like, why can't we just buy our own assets and just build those up? Because that's when the house across the street was for sale, and it was like $2,500 to the city.
Sure.
And it was pouring rain out that night, because I remember the night it was pouring rain.
As if the night's not etched into your brain. Here's the night, guys. So
Exactly.
listen
You wanna
up.
know what?
Okay.
I just had a flashback here really quick.
Yeah,
because,
that's
like,
good.
I remember it was like pouring rain, and we had to untarp the loads because I was pulling flatbed on steel. And I had just come back from this back surgery, and I was supposed to have somebody help me do it because I had a weight restriction. And the dude was just like, do it yourself. I said, do it myself. I was on the phone with her, and I was like, do it myself. Boom, by tossing the keys, because she's like, you didn't got to put up with that. Let's make some real money. So I tossed him the keys and left the truck parked right there on the road, and the rest is history.
Yeah. So you know, a lot of people have been there, Steve and Londi, which is, you know, a lot of the audience whether they're listening right now and they just are asking somebody just said, hey, give me a hand with this flatbed I'm about to unload. And they just toss someone the keys, or they're less defiant today and they're saying, hey, I'm going to do this. And, you had to have some sense of frustration in life, right, at that point. And then you had to have some optimism, which the optimism really was the driver to say, hey, this is it.
I had the optimism right here.
Okay, so you had Londi.
The power and belief.
Yes.
The visions in her head.
Okay.
And she knew that I could execute them. And it was the perfect storm.
Yeah.
It came at the right time. And it was just.
And so when you say right time, though, do you think if you weren't over driving that truck and having your back surgery and you were where you were, you would have had that perfect storm, or is that, or would it have been delayed? Right. Because I view Londi, I viewed Londi as a little backstory. Londi, when I met Londi, which was almost 15 years ago, she was selling cars at a Toyota delership and I was buying cars from her.
That's
funny.
That's how I met her.
That's how Londi met her old Rolodex. Okay.
Yep,
Good work, Londi.
Absolutely.
But when I look at, the scenario under which, Londi was out there selling cars, she was always interested in what I was doing. Cause I kept saying, hey, I'm buying real estate. And Londi would, always be driving me, right? She'd be saying, hey, can we meet? Can we meet? And I was always, I'm too busy right now. And thanks for selling me the car. And then 6 months later, she'd call and say, are you sure you don't want this lease redone? And I can do something here for you. I'm like, okay, let's talk. Can we talk about real estate? You always had that passion for real estate to some level, but you were you didn't know enough.
I didn't know where to start. Like I didn't know where to start. Basically.
But so you didn't know where to start, and people say this to me all the time. I don't know where to start. Like let's talk about that for anybody. They don't know where to start. How does someone get started, right? I mean, how did you get started, right? You bought your childhood's home, but
Finding a Steve. It was super simple. All she had to do was buy me. She was just like, man, can we do this? And I'm like, yes. Well, what can I learn from it? What can you teach me? And then once she gets her mindset on something, there's just no stopping it. It doesn't matter what she does. She's just a go-getter, and she will figure out a way to not just get the problem solved. She will find out a way to revise whatever system it is that she's looking at. And she's like numbers and patterns and in ways to like go around it to be able to capitalize on things. She has a really good, keen sense of the obvious for seeing patterns that are about to come up.
It's like the ninth wonder of the world, or something.
It is. But she can see like these little algorithms are coming. She's just like, I don't know.
I was like, okay, your stuff is coming up, so let me. Like, if for you to even have to think about it, let me come to you to make life easier, and I get this.
Yeah. So let's go back 1 second, because I think it's important. So Londi would proactively take the leases that were coming due. This was in 2005 and 6, and saying, hey, listen, or whatever year it was, and she was saying, hey, your lease is coming due in a year. Can I help you solve your problem today? So you took that skill set and you put it into real estate, yes. and you had this whimsical way about yourself, but this isn't something you were taught, right? It's not like you went to school for it. You didn't learn it at the blackjack table or whatever table you were dealing. So, I look at it from the moment to get started, because the end result is phenomenal, right? The end result today is
the end result is still going.
The end result, the story, we're on chapter 5 of a 20-page story, 20-chapter story, which is great. But the wins you're getting today are wins that are real, right? You really got a $20,000 check. You really own real estate. You really have 4 projects going right now. You really have done this with very little amounts of your own money. You started fulfilling the real estate dream, which is the ultimate power that in 5 years, should you guys, which I know you will, continue down this path, will be multiple millionaires with real estate that will be fulfilling your obligations, right? Now, along the way, you're going to have problems.
Oh, absolutely.
But those problems, as you think about it, though, Londi,
you don't have a problem unless you go to work. You gotta have a problem.
That's true.
You stay at home. You gotta have a problem. Like their life is, you're going to have problems. Why wouldn't you choose the problems that are going to be more profitable?
So think about this, guys, because I think that's probably, I have a young son who's in college, and I tell him all the time, you can go you could spend 40 hours a week doing one job, or you can spend the same 40 hours a week doing another job, and that other job is going to pay you 10x. Which do you want to do? It's up to you, right? Because the same stuff or the same garbage is going to impact your life is still going to be there, right?
Right.
And so So let's go back to that childhood home for a minute, because I think that was probably
started,
yeah. Because getting started, you know, people say to me all the time, "How do I get started, Scott? I hate my life. I hate being the over the truck driver. I hate when I get to this deliverable and someone says to me, go sling this, and you're supposed to have some help. They're like, hey, go pound sand, guy. And you're like,
I hate paying more rent than what a mortgage actually is.
I hate paying more rent than a mortgage
hate
is.
paying even a mortgage when I could have a downstairs tenant pay for my living, and then I don't have all that extra cash left.
Right.
That's the reason why the childhood house got bought. Like, here's the thing. I gave birth to a 2-pound baby.
Okay.
Anybody knows our medical system? That's not cheap.
Right.
So because of that, I had to start like, okay, from zero. I have to file bankruptcy and do it.
So go back to that, because you said bankruptcy twice, and people need to understand, because this is a real life scenario, right? We see people all the time that come through the world that have had a past, right? Everybody has a past, and that's okay. Pasts are okay, but so you had to file back. So you gave birth to a premature baby, or a baby who was underweight, who had to spend significant time probably with the NICU is at the time, and as a result of that, your medical bills probably were significant, right? Talk about what happened there.
Here's the thing: I had insurance.
Okay.
I had a good job. I had insurance. I didn't know like how much would have to come out of my pocket and how much that would affect me.
Okay.
Like after she spent a whole month in the NICU.
Sure.
And I couldn't work because I didn't.
Is that your daughter that you were golfing with, or was golfing?
Yep.
Okay. I just relate to them by the Snapchat world, so that's all I know. Okay, so there's a daughter who was golfing yesterday who didn't know that Londi was there. Backstory, but so this daughter was premature, born. So you fast forward, you get all these bills. You have a job at the time. Does this sound like anyone else? You have a job. You have insurance. Oh, you lost your job.
After that, I lost my job.
Okay.
I lost my job.
Sure.
Me and her father broke up. I literally left with like the clothes on my back.
Sure.
And her stroller, and I went back to my mom's house.
How long ago was this?
This was, she's 15, so 14 years ago.
So 14 years ago.
Yeah,
okay.
I went back to live with my mom because I had nowhere else to go. And then my mom, because it was Section 8, the house was on Section 8. So since it was Section 8, she couldn't stay there because we had aged out. So they made her move. And I stayed to pay the rent because the rent was only like $600. And the landlord was like, well, if you're ever able to buy this place, I'll sell it to you at a good price. And I learned about something called FHA.
Sure.
And I had a low, like 3.5% interest rate. And I only needed $1,500 down. And I'm like, why wouldn't I just buy the house that I grew up in and charge rent so I wouldn't have to pay?
So it was a duplex, obviously.
Right. It's a 2-family. And
sure.
And I was just like, it just don't make any sense to go move to a single family and pay the whole mortgage by myself when I can just pay nothing and live for free.
Sure. It's so a lot of people use that terminology, house hack, right now, which is simply what you did, where you were house hacking. You bought a house, you lived in part of it, you rented the other part. You obviously your mortgage was being covered by the tenant, so you were paying nothing to essentially live. And at that point, you said something continued to happen, right?
It just clicked. I'm like, okay, well, and that's when Stevie came in and we started like, I don't like gifts. Like, don't buy me bracelets and stuff. You want to do something for me? Build me a new kitchen or a new bathroom.
That was your Mother's Day present.
Right.
2 years in a row with new kitchens.
Right.
It's pretty nice of you.
I want a new deck. So like that's the stuff like I care about, that I value. And because of that, the house value went up, and then when rates dropped in the neighborhood, values went through the roof. And I'm like, well, can I pull money out this house and buy something else? And that's exactly what we did. And then the very next year, that house went up a lot in value, and we were able to pull that money out and do it again. And I'm like, this is a thing.
Yeah. So talk me through that, because I hear a lot of these stories where somebody finds that aha moment, which you did, and then they choose to fail because they take that money and become an irresponsible human, right? So people, which we've seen all the time. I mean, I have a guy that borrowed money from us that made some money, and he bought a Lamborghini. It's like, dude,
I drive a Honda.
What? Yeah, it's fine. Whatever you choose to drive is fine, but but the money that you have is not indicative of your car. It's indicative of what you're doing for tomorrow, because now you've got 5 projects going. And if you continue down the path of being disciplined, was there temptation?
Absolutely.
Was there temptation to say, okay, I got $80,000 or whatever money you got out of that deal, I can do something else with that, right? I could become a victim of society,
right,
or I could become a better me.
Right.
And then you collectively had to make that decision, right? You guys had to say, well, this path sucks. It's short-term benefits, or this path is hard. but long-term benefits. What talk about that moment? I mean, did you guys ever talk about it? You know, the first time you saw $80,000 in the bank account, were you ever like,
We still talk about it.
Oh, dude,
yeah, so what are we saying though?
What about the first cash out? It's like $100-something.
So okay, so the first cash out was how much?
It was $113,000.
$113,000.
First cash out. The first thing I did, I bought some shoes at JCPenney for $33.
I remember that. All right. Okay, so everyone here. So
But
she
then we
went
also
and
went-
bought some high-end shoes at JCPenney for $33.
We also went to Sanford that night too. And so
Okay, so you had a nice dinner. So you celebrated the win, right?
Yep.
So you went to a nice dinner. You spent $33 on shoes. So now you're left with $112,000.
But you know what's got like? Here's the thing about that too, is we also celebrate our losses.
Sure.
Our failures are what continues to make us grow because you learn
Yeah.
more from them than you do from. I mean, if we succeeded off of every deal that we did,
It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be a deal.
It really wouldn't. It really wouldn't be a deal, you know.
Yeah.
So like,
It wouldn't be hard.
even when we fail and like we lose, and nobody likes to lose. Show me a good loser, and I'll show you a loser.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But if you learn from that, like we celebrate those because it's about the journey. It's not about that destination. So
Yeah,
we
and the
really
journey's
embrace it.
important because everybody that listens here has a failure that they can report back to that happened today, whether it's a small personal failure or a small family failure or a lapse in judgment failure or a tomorrow failure. Those happen, right? And I think, Steve, as you say, we celebrate those by understanding how do we get better, right? How do we cure our sometimes stupidity? How do we cure sometimes our inhibition? How do we cure sometimes our financial discretionary faults? You know, I always tell people, don't buy anything, buy buildings, right? That's kind of my thing. Don't buy shoes, buy buildings. Don't buy this, buy buildings.
Yep.
Now we kind of put in there, buy Bitcoin as well, because somehow we think that that's a good theory as well. But if you take at the end of the day, that moment, you know, when you got the money.
When I got the money, there was an off-market deal I was looking at for sale by owners.
So you knew this was coming, Londi, and you knew you were going to have money. And instead of doing anything stupid, you were looking for deals to do something productive with it.
I was scared.
Like, walk us. You were scared. What were you scared of? Tell me.
It's like,
Failure.
There's like, there's money there, and it's gonna burn. And like I was gonna spend it all on dumb stuff. So let me spend it on something smart. So I didn't even know like I was doing a BRRRR until I was doing the BRRRR because I even like the bank that loaned me the money was Rocket Mortgage.
Sure.
And we did the cash out refi. We got the money out, and another house like that's in the neighborhood came up, and it was a duplex, and it was only $125,000. They were like, "Well, you can put 20% down." I'm like, "Can I take this money and do it?" They were like, "Yeah." Are you going to finance the rest? They're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Is it really that easy?" They're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
And was it?
It was.
It was.
It was.
So you took that money. You said, "Okay, I'm going to buy the duplex for 125. I'm going to take 20% of the money." So that sounds like it's $25,000 of the $112,000 that was remaining. So $40,000 of the 120 you had. So in theory, you could have done that three times total. And you chose to do that, which then gave you what? What happened after that?
Well, we took that after our down payment or whatever on it, and then we stuck some money into it. And that one for you, what did we come out on that one? Like $80-some thousand too.
Like literally the very next year we got it reappraised. We bought it for 125. And the very next year, it appraised up for 225.
Wow.
So we have so we have a house that like we took the money and we have a house that's paid off. That's how we do it.
Yeah.
That's completely fixed up, and we have it like how we exactly like it, but we have no mortgage on the house yet.
Wow. Yeah. So talking about that though, so I think that's super powerful. So your journey wasn't a sprint; it was more of a marathon, which is very common. You
This
guys
has all happened in the last 4 years.
Yeah. So this is
if
4
you
years.
actually think about it, it's 2024. Like I said, we started in the pandemic.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
yeah. So
like,
to say someone, Steve, you started in the pandemic. You started where you are. That's 4 years ago. If you fast forward or back up 4 years ago, did you think you could ever be to where you are today?
No.
Never thought you could have it happen.
I didn't think so. But you gotta have that teammate with you too. That's on that same page that wants to go with. You.
Sure. And so thinking about the team and then thinking about the next steps, you guys took the moment, which I think's super pivotal, is that you have a free and clear property, which is very important. So that didn't happen overnight. That was sweat equity, build the See that, guys? So Londi, when I used to go find contractors, I would go to Home Depot. Londi goes to the extended stay hotels to find potential tenants to stay in her units. So if you're not crafty, I can't help you. I didn't think of that. Londi did. And I think that's pretty genius at the end of the day. Okay. So that's great. So when you think about, you also mentioned during the webinar, which is I think really important, you find most of your stuff on Facebook Marketplace. So you're thrifty in terms of what you can do in terms of tenancy, in terms of furnishing your units. So how much effort does that take of you? Because it seems to be,
if you're going to sit on your phone anyway and be on TikTok and Facebook, you can literally get on like your phone and be on Facebook Marketplace looking like, oh, that's cute, that's nice.
So you just bought a couch right now? Is that what you're saying?
I got this. This is on sale. Like there's 2 chairs for $75. Like if I go to the store and buy these chairs, these same chairs is $300. So like, why would I buy the chair 75% off?
Huh. Yeah. So, okay. Well, and she's showing me the Facebook Marketplace she's on right now. So for those of you that can't see, they look lovely. I don't know if
And by the way, a little backstory. Even before we were doing properties, she was still on Facebook Marketplace buying stuff for the house. I was like, dang.
Yeah. So she's a professional Facebook Marketplace.
Absolutely.
Okay. So digging into the next chapter for you guys, you guys have, I think, done a remarkable job starting from zero, right? Because my story of 2003 is a story. Your story of 2019 is a great story, right? Different. We all come from different places. Londi getting tossed out of wherever the hell she was, casino. You getting fed up with, you were working as a tradesman. You wanted to have a cleaner existence, come home clean, leave clean, and you then had a back surgery that then resulted in essentially you having that aha moment in the middle of the rain story in Bolingbrook, Illinois, where you're like, hey, here's the keys, pal. I'm out of here. Yeah. Why don't we go do something collectively for ourselves that's better?
We're tired of making somebody else's dreams come true.
Yeah. Make our own. And that's the American dream, right? We want to make our own dreams come true because God damn, everyone else can make their dreams come true. Why am I not doing it? And there's a lot of people that will wake up tomorrow and go make someone else's dreams come true and continue to do that because it's easier, right? It's comfortable.
And if they want to do that, come work for me.
There you go.
Come make my dreams come true.
Yes. And Steve will take you.
I got you.
No, it's comfortable. A lot of people get complacent and comfortable.
Most people do, right? And after a 50-year career at AT&T or one of these places, they're like, yeah, I got,
I have nothing to think about.
I just signed off and now I have my pension. It's just fine. And your pensions are these houses that you're building value in and the rental income you're getting. Let's talk about, you got 4 projects working right now, which are great. You're active, which is great. You guys are active collectively in finding deals, sourcing deals, doing deals, managing deals, refinancing deals, buying stuff, furnishing properties. What do you see the next chapter being? I mean, so you're scaling right now, which is fun. We're buying more properties, which is fun. Where do you see yourself in a year from today?
Buying more properties and scaling.
Okay.
But like, side note, weird thing. Like, I like helping in my community. I like teaching people. I like showing people like, okay, your limitations is just you.
For sure.
And if you learn how to do better, like again, my sister, perfect story. She had 8 kids. One of them is disabled. Like she's got to take care of it for the rest of his life. And she was a blackjack dealer, and she was able to buy her house.
Sure.
She was able to get started. Her son, the son of a 15-year-old mom. He's on his looking for a second house now.
So your nephew, you've empowered him to buy his first house, which he's successfully done. Mm-hmm. You love helping people, which is you do have a big heart. You are a kind soul. You do want to do better, see the better in everyone, which is very kind of you. I think of the next step of that is your nephew is probably a great example of where you see yourself going. He's going to buy 1 more. You're going to buy 5 more. You're going to keep sourcing deals and chasing opportunities. And who knows what's going to happen in the next year.
She also wants to be alderman.
Oh, yeah. She's got some political, she's got some political aspirations as well. The other thing, which is fascinating, other than your political aspirations, is you also are a wonderful networker that networks with a very, very diverse and very wide group of people, which is, I think, very powerful. Is that the way you engage is important, which is part of this learning lesson to people. Is you need to engage, you need to be mindful of relationship, and then you need to figure out how to have your role in that relationship so you can be part of it, which I think you do a phenomenal job of. So I look at kind of the future, and I say we certainly are here to be your champion across that platform. I wonder what keeps you up right now. Steve, Londi, speaking of real estate, or speaking of the career path you've chosen right now, because tomorrow's not granted, and real estate has its ups and downs, people, and there's different things that happen in the world. What's keeping you guys up right now?
A fear of disappointing people that believe it. I'm a people pleaser.
Okay,
so
that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
No, that's good. You want to, that's mindful. Okay, that's great. Steve, what keeps you up?
Caffeine.
Yeah, well, tonight you'll be up then, because he just got a high octane drink.
Whatever that was. What keeps me up about it? I don't know. I think the fact of,
well, are you comfortable with the cash flow? Are you worried about making your payments? Are you ever worried about failure towards your next deal? I mean, where do you feel pressure? Maybe.
Where do I feel pressure? Is trying to do too much at once.
So too much by yourself, or too much in general?
Too much by myself. And like, I have to learn how to relinquish that and start delegating that out more.
Sure.
Like each one of these projects, like, so this one that we just did
Phillips.
Like, it took 3 months, but there wasn't no labor hired out on that except for the demo. So it says 3 months, but I was working like 16 to 18 hours a day, every day for the last 3 months to pull this off. And
sure.
What it does is it takes away from family time. Is you're tired. It makes your attitude different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So coming up on this, that's where I said, like, at the end of it, get your crew together so that you don't have all of that weight on your shoulders. Because I tell you what, it really it affects your personal life. It affects everybody around you when you put that much into it. On top of the fact, it's just not healthy. So,
yeah, and I remember those days for myself, when I was working 12, 14, 16 hours a day. You would never want to miss the opportunity to go do something the next day. The next day was always something of interest to me. But I would never say no, because I didn't know where the opportunity was going. And I can appreciate that, Steve, as far as how you focus on, delegating, because eventually I got a crew, and you have to get a little trust in the crew. You got burned a few times. You'd show up at a job site, and I'd be like, what are you guys doing? And what are all these bottles of vodka doing? And then they were like, oh no. And they all scattered. You learn a lot through that process. So that's fascinating.
And a lot of that comes into is just like when you start doing that and like letting go of that. A lot of it is that when I realize when I'm not on that job site, nothing gets done.
Right.
And so,
or it's less productive.
Yeah. So it's less productive. And then when we had this goal of being able to pay back that money of 3 months. So what I would do is I would make a list in the morning, and I'm not quitting until it's done. I don't care if it's 7 o'clock at night. I don't care if it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm not walking out of that house until it's done. And I drag my ass in the house at 4 o'clock in the morning, but I'm back up at 7, back at it. You know what I mean? Tired and dragging. And if
tired as hell
to 11, and I'm still recovering from it. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's about time management and stuff like that. So that's been keeping me up at night. So then with this Tulsa house and stuff that's going on, it's kind of nice to have other people there working on it instead of taking all of that responsibility on your shoulders. And a lot of it is I'm just a cheap because I always like look at these bids and I'm just like, man, that's what you're getting for it. I know I could do it. And then you just add these things on, so a lot of it is again, delegating out what can be done and do what you want to do.
Yeah. And as you said, as you said, Steve, which I think is great, is, you being frugal in your mind is also determining what you can pay, what your time is worth versus what you can pay someone else to do, is really probably that biggest will be the biggest next step for you is like, hey, I know I can drywall that entire house for $50, let's just say.
Time management.
But the end of the day is it's going to take me 4 weeks to do it, or I can go pay this crew $10,000. And to you, you're like, $10,000 to do this? There's no chance I'd ever pay that. And then
I wouldn't get paid that.
Right. I wouldn't pay myself that. But then you think to yourself, if I do that, I can delegate my time to doing in 2 other projects. And instead of me getting $20,000 in 3 months, I can get $100,000 in 3 months because I just did 3 projects.
Yep.
And once you start putting that together, that's how the ultimate scalability happens as you think about, in my opinion, where to pull your levers, right? Because that time, the true 17 hours a day away from the world takes a toll. There's no question.
All the way around.
It does. And, part of it is like, do you want to be that person that just it perpetually is a toll taker, or do you want to have some moderate balance? And in my opinion is that balance is going to be important for you guys as a team that's going to say, hey, here's where we'll find the ups and downs. Now, I'm interested in maybe my final question for you, Londi, because I find you to be perpetually seeking opportunities. You started 4 years ago, right? And I think you're fairly known to many people in the industry. How did you do that? Like how, you said,
events.
So talk about that. What now? You're going to what? You're going to the RIAs?
Yeah, I go to Brew City meetups.
You go to the meetups.
So we met Vanessa, the demo lady. She's awesome. I've met flooring people. I've met bankers. I've met other investors.
Yep.
But not even that. I remember there's a project. It was a 4-unit project on First Street. I'm like, dude, we should buy this. But somebody has bought us before us. So I rolled by to see the guy.
Oh, is that when you met? What's his name? Eric.
And I introduced myself to Eric and told him what I do. And we built a great relationship. I actually have 2 Airbnbs in that building.
Really?
Right now. Yeah.
We could have bought that building for $10,000
back in the day.
Yeah. So I think that part of it is like, Londi, you're willing to obviously have a normal civilized conversation with anyone who crosses your path.
Absolutely.
You're willing to stop on the street corner and say, hey, who are you and what are you doing here, sir? I think you do a lot of networking that's important and material. You're also a great communicator. So I think that is really important for a lot of people, because people often wonder, well, how do I meet people? And the answer is, just go do it at the end of the day, right?
Put yourself out there.
Dude, there's a new app. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called Time Left. And you literally download this app and it will send you to dinner with 5 other strangers. And, and you don't you just your
is it like a networking site or?
It's like an app. 5 strangers at dinner. And they pick the place in Milwaukee, right? Like a restaurant. And you go and you meet people from that's new to the city or just want to meet other people. I've done it twice already. It's amazing.
I've never heard of that.
The person that I met out today, she does branding and stuff like that. I met her on that app when I went out to dinner. We met up at Blue Bat. And it's great.
Whoa.
It's another networking thing.
I've never heard of it. I'll take a look at it because now I'm intrigued to know more about it. But I don't know. Denver, you know about that? Yeah, I'm sure it popped up on his Instagram somehow. Yeah. Okay. Great. I'm interested in it's for sure going to show up on my screen now that it's talking.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's talking. Time Left app. No problem. It'll be right there.
Last week I met, it was 2 weeks ago. I went out to dinner. I met a couple of doctors, a couple somebody in television who's from San Francisco that's looking to move to Milwaukee now.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. All right. Maybe we're gonna all go on time left.
It's called Time Left.
Time Left. All right. Well, check out the app, guys, and you can do that. I don't know, Peter. Before we close out, were there any questions we didn't get to at the time? Okay. Yeah. Great. Okay. So, for those of you that joined us live, thank you for being part of this. Thank you, Londi. Thank you, Steve, for joining us. I think your story resonates with so many people, and it was important for me to share your story and your success with others because, our number one driver, our number one question, the number one question I get is, how do I get started? Whether it's from, I get this question from doctors who are like, I want to own some real estate. Or I get it from people that are 18 years old and are just aspiring people, and they all have the same story. I have no money, or I have money, or I have no knowledge, and the answer is solve your problem and be a winner, right? Winners win, and that's the way it is. And you guys have proven to be winners, are winning, and I'm always proud of you, Londi, as you know, and I'm proud of you, Steve, for what you guys have done collectively. And I know that in a few short years, you guys are going to be exactly where you want to be. I know there's going to be challenges ahead of you, and I always remind everyone to remain calm and civilized during the transition of challenges in life. And I say that with a smile on my face, only because I mean that. So I think there's a lot to be had. I want to obviously thank you for joining me for your time this afternoon. I know your time is valuable. And so thank you. As I said, you're joining us on The Hard Truths with Scott Lurie. We've talked about a successful BRRRR strategy on our webinar and had a little recap here in our podcast. So thank you for joining us, and thank you to our listeners. If Londi or Steve had anything to leave with you guys as parting words, I think the word is get started. And Londi has really emphasized just get started. And that's really a great opportunity. So thank you all for being here. And thank you to my team at F Street and the Hard Money Co. for putting this on. And we'll talk soon. Take care, everyone. Yeah.
All good?
That was perfect.
Okay.